What 1 year on Substack has taught me for those who are too scared to start. Have you been thinking about starting a newsletter? Have you been thinking about writing on Substack? Or maybe you're fed up with social media and want to find a different place to become your online home. This is my video about what 1 year of writing on Substack has taught me, and is particularly aimed at those of you who are very unconfident when it comes to writing online, because that's exactly how I was. I didn't think places like Substack were for people like me. I thought readers would tell me I'd no place being on the platform and that I didn't have enough talent to be there. But in the last year, I've grown my free newsletter subscribers. I've started a podcast. I've taken on paid subscribers. And best of all, I'm really enjoying writing and creating on there. It's given me a whole new lease of life. It's given me so much more to write about, to talk about, to explore, to discover. It's been absolutely brilliant. Before we go any further, I'll do a very quick introduction to Substack. Substack is a platform that has crossed traditional blogging with a newsletter. So you have a homepage and everyone can read all the posts you've written unless they're for paid subscribers only. So just like with a blog, but every time you write a post, an email is sent out to your email list. This means you go directly to their email, but more importantly, you own that list. It doesn't belong to Instagram, to Twitter, or X as it's now called, and it doesn't belong to Facebook. If Instagram, for example, ceased to exist tomorrow, that would be it. You'd have lost the audience you've spent so long building up. But if Substack disappeared, you still have the email addresses of everyone who has subscribed to you. Also on Substack, you can create your own podcast or do voiceovers for your newsletters. And if you download that app, you can send notes, which is a bit like Twitter, but less shouty. And you can provide subscriptions and get paid for your writing. I have been writing on Substack since about June 2022. I've grown my original email list, which was around 900 when I started, and my current number of free subscribers is 1,578 exactly. So in just over a year, I've grown by around 700 subscribers. Now, this isn't huge in comparison with some other accounts, but it's slow and steady growth, which suits me. I've also lost a lot of subscribers when I changed what I was doing and writing about. So when I changed over from my original email list to Substack, I changed what I was writing about into what it is now. And most recently, I dropped about 30 subscribers in a day, which was actually a bit gutting, but may have been a clear out of dead or bot accounts or something like that by Substack, or 30 people just randomly decided to unsubscribe even though I hadn't put out a post that day. So who knows? Who knows? But we cannot dwell on these things. The thing is, though, for an unconfident creative, this can hit us hard because we think we've done something wrong. But as wiser people than me have said, you have to see losing followers as a good thing, because it means you're getting closer to finding your true people. Now, I write 2 posts a week, and maybe also do 1 thread per week as well. I do a monthly podcast with my friend Claire, where we chat about our Substack progress, and we call that our Substack story. I will leave a link to that in the description box, because if you're watching this video and want more insight into what Claire and I think about how our Substacks, our individual Substacks are going, then that's where to go. So let's get into the meat of the video. What 1 year of writing on Substack has taught me. And remember, This video is aimed at those of you who have very little confidence when it comes to your writing. So number one, it can take a lot of courage to start. If this is you, if you're feeling nervous, you maybe have wobbly legs or even feeling slightly sick, then believe me, this is all completely normal. I've been there, I've done that, and I know lots of other people have as well. I have a quote on the board behind me, and it says, if you're paralyzed with fear, it's a good sign. It shows you what you have to do. That's by Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art. The thing to remember is you don't have to tell anyone that you're starting a Substack. You don't have to announce it to any social media followers you might have. Keep it really low key, if that helps, until you've got to grips with it. I read an opening Substack post from a former magazine editor a few days ago. Porna Bell wrote in her Substack called As I Was Saying with Porna Bell, I've been a journalist for over 20 years, written 4 books, yet writing this first introductory post has been surprisingly nerve-wracking. Now, if someone said that to me, I'd probably take that as a sign that I shouldn't be creating a Substack and give up on the idea for a few months whilst I built up my courage again. But that's not why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you that Substack is for everyone, from novice writers to completely experienced writers. And most people get nervous. It doesn't matter how much experience they have. Number 2, it doesn't have to be perfect before you launch. Now, if you research how to start a Substack, you'll probably be told certain things you have to have in place before you start. Naming your Substack is a good one to have, but you can start with pretty much not setting much up at all and still start. Don't worry about colors or fonts or logos. All of this can be played around with as you get further down the line. Number 3, you don't need a niche. If I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. Some writers very clearly have a niche or a focus, a topic that they write about. Mine, for example, is broadly about creativity, mindset, and my own creative journey. But you don't have to know what you want to focus on yet. I didn't know I was going to focus on confidence and creativity until a few years ago. By then, I'd been writing online for 13 or 14 years. In those preceding years, I played around, I experimented, I tried lots of different topics. If you're new to writing online, you might have a specific idea, or you might want to use your Substack as a place to try lots of different things. The thing is, it's your Substack, and you can write whatever you want. Obviously, if you want to grow and have thousands of paid subscribers, you might have to tweak things as you go. But in order to start, you just have to do that. Start. Your focus or topics will evolve over time. Take the pressure off and just enjoy writing it. The great thing about writing a newsletter or a blog is that it can adapt and evolve over time. It grows with you. If people don't like it, they'll leave, and that's fine. And they will probably be replaced with people who do like it. Number 4, your audience is important, but don't write for them or what you think they might like, because you'll tie yourself up into knots. You'll be overthinking and worrying whether they'll like it as you're writing. And while you're writing, you just need one thought: what it is you're writing about. I've known people not write about what they really, really wish to write about because they don't think their audience will like it. How do they know they won't like it? They don't, unless they ask them, of course. But then if their reply isn't what the writer wants to write about, then maybe the writer needs to find a different audience. You have to write for yourself first and foremost. Otherwise, it will make you resentful and unhappy, and you won't stick with it. You just won't. Number 5, consistency is good, but not mandatory. Don't get me wrong, people love it if they know when, exactly when, their favorite newsletter will be popping into their inboxes. But it can be hard in the beginning to know how you write best, how much time it'll take you to create a newsletter, how much free time you'll have available, and so on to write it. You might be thinking, or have even announced, that you'll create twice a week, but then you find that isn't manageable. It's not a bad thing to drop down to once a week or even once a fortnight. It doesn't mean that you failed. I write mine twice a week, roughly. Sometimes it might be once. But I haven't yet landed on the days that work best for me around my YouTube and my book writing. I was originally thinking Mondays and Wednesdays would be good, but it's turning into Wednesdays and Fridays, roughly. It's Friday today and I still haven't written today's Substack. If it doesn't go out till tomorrow or Sunday, that is fine. I'm still figuring it all out. Number 6, if you're aiming to go paid eventually, then turn this option on in the beginning. Now, obviously, this isn't a rule because I don't agree with rules, not when it comes to writing and creativity. It's just advice, so do feel free to ignore it if you wish. But let me explain about my own circumstances. Launching my newsletter was really, really nerve-wracking, really nerve-wracking. But I did it and sent it out to my original subscribers. I knew I wanted to go paid eventually, but the advice at the time was to build up your free subscribers first. I didn't want that hanging over me. I didn't want that fear sitting over me for however long it took me to build up a bigger list. And incidentally, you don't need a big list before you go paid, by the way. So I went paid 2 days later. Again, there was fear, there was imposter syndrome, there was a lot of anxiety, but I got it out of the way because then I could just get on with enjoying the writing process. It was done. The hard bit was done. Number 7, you don't need lots of added extras for your paid subscribers. I was really racking my brain to think about how I could add value for my paid subscribers. I was thinking of adding courses, masterclasses, productivity sessions, so much work, plus lots of behind the scenes about my writing and creative journey. And it was just too much. And it was probably too much for my readers too. They don't need to be inundated with information, otherwise they'll unsubscribe because they just can't keep up. I realised my writing had as much value as masterclasses, courses, and productivity sessions. It was a really big realisation for me, and it happened a few weeks ago, in fact. And I'll link to the Substack article I wrote about it and take the paywall off so you can read it if you're interested. In our podcast, Claire and I have discussed just going a bit deeper on certain subjects, just being a little bit more vulnerable with our writing. My paid subscribers get more about me and my writing journey. I go behind the scenes with my nonfiction book proposal, and just recently, I've also started writing about earning money as an online writer and creative, and I share my earnings behind the paywall. Number 8, you don't need an established audience before you launch. You don't need social media subscribers, you don't need a previous mailing list, and you don't need a YouTube audience. You don't even need to be well known, a celebrity, or a published author. The majority of my Substack subscribers don't come from social media. They come from within the platform, from recommendations and from places such as Substack Notes. If you're thinking you need to build a platform elsewhere before you start, you don't. You just need to start. Number 9. Don't compare yourself to writers with bigger platforms. Please don't. There have been a few headlines lately about how some writers are earning 6 figures through Substack. This is per year. And this is great and motivating to hear that you can do this on a writing platform. It is quite inspiring and motivating, but it can also be disheartening. You might be thinking you'll never get there, so what's the point? You might be thinking you're putting in so much work but aren't seeing the same rewards. And that can be really, really hard. A lot of these writers will have had an established audience before transferring over to Substack, years of building up a platform. Writing and Substack is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. So for now, if you can, please concentrate on your writing and enjoy the process. Do not think about that end goal, if indeed that is your goal. Number 10, try not to get caught up in the numbers. Trust your gut instincts, experiment and have fun. Focus on what you want out of Substack. And the crucial thing is just to start.